Kavita Sharma, thanks for joining Sky News Your World. Firstly, can you bring us up to speed with the investigation into the Beirut explosion? Are we any closer to determining who was responsible?
Well, 25 suspects of the blast, they have now been remanded in custody according to judicial sources, but the real reason, the exact circumstances under which that blast was triggered, they remain yet unknown. There are various theories that are swirling around, none of which there have been conclusive evidence being presented. For instance, that sparks from a welding machine could have been responsible for triggering the fire and thereby then the blast, or for instance that there was arson which was caused in order to cover up a theft. These theories, they have not been backed up by the investigation thus far, and one has to remember that the port is known for its corruption. All political factions are said to have a foothold in the port, and so very few Lebanese believe actually that this investigation would yield any evidence that would implicate politicians or their associates, and there have been calls for an international independent investigation because many fear this may yet be another cover-up.
And French President Emmanuel Macron visited Lebanon this week. How much did he actually achieve there?
Well, the focus of his trip is to basically commit the Lebanese politicians to real reforms, to fight corruption and reforms that would pave the way for a much needed loan by the International Monetary Fund. This is the focus of, this was the focus of Macron's visit. Then now it remains to be seen whether there will be any decisive steps to be taken by the Lebanese politicians. First of all, they need to form a cabinet. A new prime minister has been appointed. The old prime minister stepped down in the wake of the blast. Now a cabinet has to be formed. That sometimes can take weeks or months. And Macron's demand was that this cabinet has to be formed swiftly. This would be the first litmus test as to whether he's being heard. The French president is adopting a carrot and stick approach to Lebanon. He is basically saying if no strident steps are being taken towards reforms, there could be sanctions further down the line. However, if he sees that the Lebanese politicians are taking decisive steps towards reforms, then he will work towards unlocking international aid.
Kavita, much is made about the Lebanese resilience. The people there have endured incredible hardship, including civil war, over the past few decades. You've been on the ground in Beirut. Do the Lebanese people have much hope things will improve and that the political and economic mismanagement will be addressed?
Well, what I have seen mainly was huge anger, an outpouring of anger against the politicians, because what happened, this blast, is seen by many as a symbol for all the incompetence, for all the corruption, for all the indifference of the political elite. So what we've heard was people being incredibly angry. And then in the wake of the blast, we've seen an army of volunteers basically involved in the cleanup, people helping each other, because they kept saying we cannot rely on the politicians to help us in any way. And they have said to us repeatedly, Lebanon needs to sink to the lowest point in order to be reborn. However, and now, a few weeks on, people are saying basically they are losing hope that real changes are afoot, because although there is a new prime minister that has been appointed, many of the changes are being seen as cosmetic, and people are still holding on to see whether there is any willingness to really implement fundamental reforms.